I appreciate Gary's song choices, and I really appreciate Gary's guidance and his words of wisdom before or as we began our worship service this morning. But I'm just going to walk through this list of songs, and I won't even call it a list. It's really, I think, a well-designed selection because it covers all the important bases. We started with a song, an upbeat song, We're Marching to Zion, talking about this eternal home that we have. And then, of course, how great is our God? And we can't answer that. That's why we phrase it that way. How great is He? Well, He's so great, we come up with the best words, the most beautiful lyrics and music we possibly can, and it comes nowhere close to describe how great He truly is. And then we sing about the goodness of this great God. You know, as high and as holy and as majestic as He is good. And He does good for His people, for His creation. And then the next song, we're crying out or praising Jesus, calling on Him to draw us closer and closer to Him and to His example. And then we worship and adore You. That is the response when our hearts actually begin to take in all this other stuff, that we have an eternal home, that God is great beyond our imagination, but He is also good, and Jesus works to draw us closer and closer. The only thing that is really left for us to do is to worship and adore. And then the hammer drops, the hammer falls. When we sing, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, because we think about this God beyond all imagination, then how He stooped, how He condescended, how He made Himself low, how He became obedient even unto death on a cross. And then we share communion together. And then as Isaiah, which we're going to read from in just a minute, as Isaiah says, Peter repeats some of it in 1 Peter, God exalted Him. Even as people walked by, wagging their heads, slinging insults, torturing Him, and eventually executing Him on a cross, He came back. He rose again. And He's highly exalted. So I really appreciate that layout. I think it'll help with us this morning. You know, you ever have conversations with people where they're talking about somebody? This happens for everybody, I think. I do it too. You're talking about somebody, but you don't want to use their name. You ever done that before? Yes, you have. I'll answer it for you. You've done it before. But 99 out of 100 times, you or the other person can figure out who it is they're talking about. Because there's always something obvious in there. Whether it's a turn of phrase, a description, something in there where you go, okay, I've narrowed it down to about one person that they must be talking about. That's Isaiah. In many places, but for our sakes this morning, we'll start in Isaiah 52 and verse 13. It is impossible to miss who it is that Isaiah is writing about. Many centuries before that person, Jesus Christ, was even to come into the world. Behold, my servant shall act wisely. He shall be high and lifted up, and shall be exalted. As many were astonished at you, his appearance was so marred, beyond human semblance, and his form beyond that of the children of mankind. So shall he sprinkle many nations. And your Bible may have a different translation there, or it may have a note. He will shake up many nations. Kings shall shut their mouths because of him. For that which has not been told them they see, and that which they have not heard they understand. Who has believed what he has heard from us? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant and like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him, no beauty that we should desire him. John chapter 1, he came to his own, and even his own did not receive him. He was despised and rejected by men, as we just sang, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And as one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed, and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And as for his generation, who considered that he was cut off out of the land of the living, stricken for the transgression of my people? And they made his grave with the wicked and with the rich man in his death, although he had done no violence. And there was no deceit in his mouth, yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him. He has put him to grief. Now the reading, which begins with power and majesty, Isaiah describes the power and majesty of this suffering servant, the one who will shake up nations, the one who will shut the mouths of kings. But then we descend, for lack of a better term, into that humiliation, into that obedience of the suffering servant. Now, if we were to keep reading, we would read as the suffering servant again is lifted high, highly exalted, lifted back to a place of power and prominence and worship. Isaiah will finally write of the glorification of the suffering servant. But I want us to think for just a few moments about this curve. We talk about this a lot, as we should talk about this a lot. The juxtaposition of a perfect and holy and majestic and eternal and infinite God, the King of kings, the King of the ages, the maker of the universe. And then we read John 1:14 about how that Word, the Word who was with God, the Word who was God, how that Word becomes flesh, how that Word makes his dwelling among us. How Paul tells us in Philippians 2, a text that many are familiar with, though maybe not all, but Paul describes this in summary as he talks about how Jesus, though he was in form of God, did not consider being equal with God something to hold on to, but he emptied himself. He made himself nothing. He became obedient even unto death on a cross. And therefore, what did God do because of that obedience of that suffering servant? He exalted him, but it still blows me away, and I know it must blow you away as well, to consider what it is that God did. In James and John, Mark 10, the sons of Zebedee came up to him and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." Now, for many years I've preached and taught that text, and I have to say the same thing. I just about always say, somebody comes up to you and says, "We want you to do for us whatever we ask," you need to get more information first. Sounds like a toddler move, doesn't it? Daddy, I need you to do something, just say yes. So Jesus, in his wisdom, responds, what do you want me to do for you? And they said to him, Matthew's account, of course, of this has the mother of James and John asking this question, but this is James and John straight out of their mouths. And they said to him, grant us to sit one at your right and one at your left in your glory. Jesus said to them, you do not know what you're asking. And we also have to pause here and understand the disciples still did not know what this concept of glory really meant. In fact, it's in Acts chapter 1, they're still going to be waiting for earthly glory. Still looking for an earthly throne, an earthly kingdom. So keep in mind, they have no concept of what they're truly asking. As Jesus corroborates, as he says to them, you do not know what you're asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink? Or to be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized? And they said to him, we are able. And Jesus said to them, the cup that I drink, you will drink. And with the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized. But to sit at my right or at my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared. And that's the end of that portion of the conversation. But the other 10 disciples got wind of this. Maybe they overheard it. But somehow they know. And they began to be indignant at James and John. And Jesus called them to him and said to them, moms and dads of small children, especially boys. I don't know anything about girls, by the way. So Daryl, you can help me out sometime. But this is one of those moments where they're about to throw down, right? There's about to be a rumble and a scuffle, and dirt's going to fly. And so the 10 are indignant with James and John. And what's James and John's nickname, by the way? Sons of thunder. Do you think they're reacting calmly to this? No. And so Jesus calls them together. Come here, boys. And he says this. You know that those who are considered rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. As Lars read from Luke's account of this, they actually give themselves this exalted name, benefactors. But it shall not be so among you. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant. And whoever would be first among you must be slave of all. And then he says it. Have you ever read verse 45 before? If you've never read this before, never heard it before, just strap in. For the Son of Man, even the Son of Man, came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Just let that sink in for a minute. For even the Son of Man, even Jesus, even the to-be-exalted Son of God, even the Word through whom everything was created and nothing was made without him, even Jesus says, I did not come to be served, but I came to serve and also to give my life as a ransom for many. And if we understand even an inkling of how powerful and majestic Jesus Christ is, and then understand even an inkling of what he did and what he's saying here, and the fact that he was a servant, I have to ask myself, if even Jesus does that, if even Jesus did that, how can I not? I'm going to tell a story that some of you know that happened last week, right here in this location. Now, I have to give a little bit of background, so bear with me, but the background is important. Some of you know, maybe most of you know, that I'm working on some school stuff, and I'm just getting started with my major research project, which is a hands-on thing. And 11 plus me, 11 of our West Metro members are involved in that. In fact, today will be our first foray out into the local homeless community to make friends and to get to know people. And we'll be doing that over the next several months. So, pray about that. But the important thing to understand is this whole thing is about engagement in Jesus-like ways with our local homeless community. So, last week, we had our first focus group. 8 of the 11 were here, plus me. So we all sat down here at 2 round tables, and we had lunch together, had sub sandwiches. And then we split. I put one table over here and left the other here because I was recording both, and I didn't want any, cross-pollination of my recordings. And so I'm going to come down off the camera, sorry. Visuals are important, though. So I'm standing right here with a podium about right here. And if you've never done a focus group before, it's a very simple process. I had 4 questions. Everybody had their own notebook. I would ask a question. You get 90 seconds to write your own personal answer in your own notebook, and then that 90 seconds is up. You get 8 minutes. Your group gets 8 minutes to discuss what you wrote. Then after that, a couple minutes, each group had a leader, and they would present a summary. And so we did that 4 times. And remember, this is all about the homeless community. And let me pause here and say as well that I've been stressed to the max about this because you don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't know if my project's going to work. I've been so focused on me and my own concerns. So after the 3rd question, 90 seconds is up. I say, you got 8 minutes. I set my watch. Siri, don't. Set a timer. And so I was probably going to the bathroom. So I turned around to walk out. One of those doors right there is propped open. And as I'm walking toward the back, I see somebody at the front door, the breezeway. We had the ice cream social last week. Many were here. And so I thought, okay, somebody came early, or probably somebody just got back from lunch, and one of their kids had to go to the bathroom, and it's a long drive home, so they're just going to try to get in the building to go to the bathroom. So I'm walking out there with all this in my mind, and what I see, there's no coincidence here. There's a homeless man sitting with his back to our front door. And I started laughing. And I'm just looking up going, okay. Eddie, by the way. His name's not homeless man, his name's Eddie. So Eddie came in, had a sandwich. We took him to get some medicine, and no way to contact him, but I hope I see him again. But my point is, I was so focused on me and my power, and I wasn't even thinking about what Jesus did, that he set all that aside. Even Jesus set all that aside so that he could serve. As Lars read for us, a dispute also arose among them as to which of them was to be regarded as the greatest. And he said to them, and I know this is just a slightly different account of what we just read, but I think the wording is important. The kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and those in authority over them are called or call themselves benefactors. But not so with you. Rather, let the greatest among you become as the youngest, and the leader as one who serves. For who is the greater, one who reclines at table or one who serves? Now listen to this very closely. Is it not the one who reclines at table? But I am among you as one who serves. You notice what category Jesus placed himself in. Even Jesus the great one, the King of the universe, even Jesus, said, I didn't come here to be great. I came here to serve. And if he can do that, how can we not?